We now turn to defensive uses of guns for females. Florida is poised to become the latest state where you do not have to have a permit for concealed carry. My guest says reportedly 76% of women murdered by someone who had been an intimate partner were stalked. She says violence prevention advocates for women have a long list of changes they recommend. These changes require women to uproot their lives. Among the advice, women should change jobs, their travel routes, the time of day they leave home or work, move in with a friend or family member, change the locks on their home, or do their shopping and other chores with friends or relatives. A few even recommend women practice martial arts, such as judo, jiu-jitsu, karate, or boxing. But the most obvious answer, my guest says, is missing from these lists. Women should get a concealed handgun permit and a firearm. My guest is president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. She's also the legislative advisor on the advisory board for the DC project Women for Gun Rights. Please welcome Holly Sullivan. Holly, I wrote a book some 22 years ago called The 10 Things You Can't Say in America. And one chapter was about gun control. And I said gun control advocates have blood on their hands. I talk about a spate of crimes against women that took place in Florida, and a group began to arm women, teach them how to use firearms, and the rapes dramatically went down.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. That did happen. And the county where they were doing that, they saw a tremendous decrease. And in the counties where they weren't doing that, they saw an increase there. So we absolutely know that when a woman is armed and empowered to be in control of her own self-defense, she is far less likely to become a victim.
I'm thinking that women who've never fired firearms are more afraid of guns than men who've never fired firearms.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a stigma out there, and that's why this conversation is so important, is to get the word out to women that this is something that is very accessible, it's safe, there are avenues to learn, practice, and become proficient, and if they're interested in doing so, there's absolutely organizations that can help them to become an empowered, capable, and safe gun owner.
Someone said, I don't remember who it was, said that God made men and women, but Smith and Wesson made them equal.
Absolutely. We sometimes refer to it as the great equalizer. And it's important to realize why that is the case. So women, by and large, tend to be smaller framed, may weigh less. Men tend to be larger and stronger. So physiologically, we can't deny that men often have an advantage over a woman who they might be looking to do harm to. So the firearm acts as the great equalizer. It's that one device that makes the difference between life and death.
In recent years, what's been happening regarding women purchasing guns and women getting permits to carry?
It is through the roof. So women are, by and large, the fastest growing demographic of gun owners across America. More often than not, they're buying handguns, but they are buying rifles. So we actually see the greatest growth in women in all demographics. And that's just across the board.
What's this? The great Eldersky, the sage from South Central, the Prince of Pico Union, the Czar of Common Sense, Don Lorenzo, has a pair of MYPILLOW My Slippers in his baby brown libertarian fingers. Yes, he does. And you know what? You can get a pair too. Just call the number on your screen or go to MYPILLOW.com. Make sure you use promo code ELDER. They come in different colors and they come in different styles. And of course, this is what started it all, the MyPillow. Also comes in different sizes. Best sleep you have ever had. Call the number on your screen or use promo code MyPillow Elder. And this is the 6-piece towel set. Hand cloths, face cloths. Mine is in white. They come in a lot of different colors. I'm in white because, after all, I am the black face of white supremacy. Speaking of the black face of white supremacy, I have here a set of Giza Dream bed sheets. These are made in an area of Egypt called Giza, where they have the finest cotton, I'm told. Never been there, but I hear the cotton is fantastic. Call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code ELDER, MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. Now, Holly, you've seen the supposed research showing the more likely you have a gun in the house, the more likely the gun will be used in a wrongful way. And your response to that research is what?
No, I think that the data there is just erroneous, quite frankly. I don't think that's solid. We know that women across the country carry firearms safely every day. We know that if a woman is in a situation where she needs a firearm, that she's more likely to survive that than her having nothing at all. And going back to, how you started the segment, of course, if a woman is in a situation where she feels that her life is in danger, a police officer could be 8 minutes away. Often they don't have that kind of time. They need a remedy in the moment. And taking the training and doing their due diligence to learn how to use it in advance is the difference between life and death.
You mentioned a large number of women who have had stalkers who ultimately hurt the women. One of the problems is we have these soft on crime DAs. You have a bunch of people who should be behind bars because of cashless bail and the assumption that these poor people are victims of society as opposed to victimizers of society, have a lot of bad guys who shouldn't be on the streets in the first place. One of the other reasons women ought to consider getting a firearm and learning how to use it and apply for concealed carry.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that adult murderers, 90% of adult murderers have a violent criminal record. These are people who are known to the police. These are people that are known to the court system, and they are out anyway. So 90% of the adults that are committing these murders have been in trouble for violent crimes in the past. So there's no denying it. There's absolutely a trend here. And without a doubt, the judicial system is a massive problem across the country with all of our crime rates, is that the law, the penalties for the offense that they're committing, they are often not held accountable to the letter of the law to what that penalty should be.
I mentioned that Florida is the latest state now likely to pass a law allowing people to carry conceal without a permit. And then the obvious answer on the part of gun control advocates is this is nuts. More people, more guns, bad news. There are about 25 states, I believe, that allow permitless carry. It seems to me, if it was true, that all of a sudden people got murderous and reckless, that somebody would repeal that. But I don't think a single one has.
No, and that's, and there's a lot of misconception there that constitutional carry means that there's no background checks whatsoever. When somebody gets to the point of sale across the country, there's a federal NICS check. So if they're going to purchase a firearm, a background check is happening. So it's just simply that permit, that state level check that is not happening in those constitutional carry states. But that's not to say that folks aren't getting background checked at all. If somebody's a violent felon, they're not going to walk into a gun store and buy a firearm. That check is still happening.
Now, and I know you know John Lott. John Lott's been a frequent guest on my program. He's with the Crime Prevention Research Center, crimeresearch.org.
Yep.
And we often talk when there's a mass shooting, how the knee-jerk reaction is to pass more laws that probably wouldn't have done anything to stop the shooting, but will disarm law-abiding people. And what drives me crazy, even on Fox, Holly, rarely do you hear any discussion about how many Americans every single year use a firearm for self-defense, and but for the firearm, they would have been dead or suffered a serious injury.
Absolutely. And, you're trying to measure often a non-event. So gun owners, because particularly in a state like mine here in Connecticut, if somebody were to have been in a situation where maybe they motioned that they were carrying, or they let that person know that, hey, I'm carrying, don't come any closer, I have a firearm. And let's say that diffuses the situation, they may never report that to the police simply because they're afraid that they might get red flagged. They're afraid that somebody might come and search their home, whatever the case may be. So it's very difficult to actually measure a non-event, something that didn't actually happen. If you if you prevented a situation from happening, there may not be a report on it. So really that data it's very hard to peg down, but we do know that millions of Americans have successfully used firearms to save themselves and to get themselves out of dangerous situations.
Finally, Holly, you are in Connecticut.
Yes.
Where Sandy Hook took place.
Yes.
I'm wondering how the media treats you. Are you invited, left-wing media? Are you invited on the ABC, NBC, CBS affiliates? how are you treated? Are you treated as a villain? Are you treated with fairness? How is the media reacting to you?
So I live in the next town to Newtown, Connecticut. So I live right on the border of Sandy Hook, and it's always a challenging conversation. And I'm a single mom. I absolutely understand what these families have gone through, and our hearts as law-abiding gun owners here in the state of Connecticut, we are as heartbroken when we see these things happen as anyone else. We're not immune to it in any capacity. We just have a different opinion on how we go about stopping it. The media here is decent. The one thing that I do get is I get edited very much. So if I give like an 8-minute interview, about 7 seconds might make it on the news. And the overwhelming 90% of that article is about what our legislators are saying or what the common narrative is. I will often get invited, but only for just a couple seconds.
Right. Well, you can fight that in part sometimes by making sure your interview is live if you can control it. And also, I learned when I was running for governor, ask if you can get the full footage before the interview. Don't do it afterwards, otherwise you'll never get it. But make that a deal before that, so at least you can put it up on your own website.
Absolutely.
Holly Sullivan, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.